When thinking of The Walking Dead, I'm sure a lot of people may think of Lee, Clementine, Daryl, and maybe, just maybe, Rick Grimes.
Me?
With that cast of characters, for some people, it may be easy to overlook some of the other side characters, but in my eyes, Kenny is one of the most tragic characters in all of The Walking Dead. And I do hesitate to call Kenny a side character, but in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to The Walking Dead, he's sometimes an afterthought, considering that other characters get a lot more screen time. And that's one of the many parallels that Kenny and Tommy have in common. And trust me, I definitely hesitate to call Tommy a side character as well, but when it comes to The Last of Us, it is easy to call Tommy a side character when characters like Ellie, Joel, and Abby are the main focus. But I'll be damned if he's not a fan favorite. But for as many parallels as these two men have, their stories are completely different. And I haven't done one of these in a while, so keep in mind that this isn't meant to be a competition, just more or less a comparison between the two. And big spoiler warning for both the Walking Dead games and the Last of Us games. And also, I know I'm running this into the ground, but I don't care because it's just that damn good. I have a big favor I gotta ask from you. I have this Walking Dead fanfiction called Valid Alone. It's really good, and it would mean the world to me if you would at least check it out. Let me know how you feel about it. It has The Last of Us and The Walking Dead DNA all over it, and honestly, it is my best work by far, and I want people to see it. And the fact that it only has 80 views is a goddamn travesty. And that's a fact. So yeah, you all should change that. Go watch Valid Alone. Thanks.
I'll make her pronounce you Clementine. That's what you said. Take a look at how our last Tommy worked out.
When we first meet Kenny, we see that he's a family man, blue collar to the bone, and honestly seems like a pretty decent dude. Unfortunately, this is only a day into the apocalypse and he hasn't suffered any loss quite yet, but it didn't take long for the apocalypse to bite down hard on our friend Kenny. With Tommy, we don't spend a whole lot of time with him at first, but his outbreak day was a lot harder on him.
Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby, stay with me. Alright, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby, I know it hurts.
This is definitely more of a loss for Joel, considering it was his daughter, but the level of guilt Tommy had to have felt in this moment, because of this moment, had to be heavy. If I had only been a few seconds faster, I could have prevented this. I could have saved my niece. I could have saved my brother from this pain, but I failed. And the concept of failing is something Kenny becomes all too familiar with. Unlike with Tommy, we don't get time jumps with Kenny. We're with Kenny before, during, and after each loss. As opposed to Tommy, who claims to have nightmares from those years, and claims that it wasn't worth surviving, which could be taken many different ways. But with Kenny, we're with him through his nightmares. We see him lose himself. And speaking of nightmares, Tommy's worst nightmares come true in part 2. We spent a lot of time with Ellie, and this was quite the loss for her, but I mean, come on, that was his goddamn brother. And though he put on a tough face, he is in so much pain and has got nowhere to go. Until he makes his way to Seattle on his own, and oh boy, does his pain now have a place to go. As opposed to Kenny, who had no shortage of places to express his pain, to some who may not have deserved it, and some who did. His pain was well documented and expressed through his words and his actions. And in a way, his physical appearance. He was broken physically and mentally for his troubles. And when it comes to physical toughness and just pure abilities, Tommy truly was no slouch until... Although Tommy never outright says it, he probably wishes Abby would have finished him off that day, considering how badly she left him. Having to ask Ellie to do what he now physically can't has to be a mindfuck for him. Losing his niece, losing his brother, losing part of his sight, and even some of his mobility has left him bitter and angry. And to an extent, we understand where all that anger comes from, but that doesn't make it okay. Sound familiar?
She is going to die. Because of you. You think because you're a little girl, you can just get people killed and no one will care? That because you're sorry, it'll all magically go away? That's not how it works!
Although the similarities are plentiful, the one big difference is time. Tommy has been dealing with the world-altering virus for 20 years. He's had to have built a little bit of callus from the ship, but I think it's finally pushed him to his limits. While Kenny only managed to survive for a few years, he actually, honestly, seemed to have found peace before he died. But his circle was smaller than it ever had been before. He only has Clementine and AJ now, or had them until he died. Kenny's nightmare finally ended. Tommy, unfortunately, is stuck in his, unable to change, unable to avenge, and unable to cope with everything he has lost. And where does that pain go? To the few people he has in his circle now. His partner and Ellie, one of the few people he has left. Ouch. In the end, these two dudes have not had an easy go at it, and the parallels are undeniable, even down to their injuries. Let's just hope that if something happens to Tommy in part 3, it doesn't mirror Kenny too much. But if The Last of Us has taught us anything, it's not about what you deserve, it's about what you got coming to you.
You stupid old man. You don't get to rush this.